Hello, family. I hope all is well. We're going to listen to some Black history, telling us about this black young architect. I believe he's an architect that had a lot to build in the foundation, I believe, of America. Here we go.
He designed America's most iconic buildings, but for nearly a century, America didn't want you to see his face. His name was Julian Abel. In 1902, Julian Abel did what was considered impossible. He became the first black graduate of the University of Pennsylvania's elite architecture program. He was a prodigy, sophisticated, fluent in French, and a master of the Beaux-Arts style. But in an era of rampant segregation, no firm would put a black man's name on the front door. So Abel became the silent partner and eventually the chief designer for the prominent Horace Trumbauer firm. For decades, the world believed Horace Trumbauer was the genius behind the Gilded Age's greatest landmarks. But according to declassified firm records and architectural analysis, it was Abel's hand that etched the Philadelphia Museum of Art into the skyline. It was Abel who designed Harvard's Widener Library and the Central Library of Philadelphia. But his absolute masterwork and his greatest irony was the West Campus of Duke University. For 20 years, Abel meticulously designed over 30 buildings, including the majestic Duke Chapel and the legendary Cameron Indoor Stadium. He created a Gothic wonderland for a university that, under Jim Crow laws, wouldn't have even allowed him to attend as a student. The betrayal wasn't just in the laws, it was in the silence. Firm policy dictated that Trumbauer's name went on every drawing, every blueprint, and every contract. Abel worked in the shadows for over 30 years, creating the literal foundations of American high society while being written out of the official story. But he reportedly never even visited the Duke campus while it was being built because he refused to subject himself to the humiliation of segregated hotels and colored-only entrances in the South. His story was nearly lost to time until 1986. According to archives from the Chronicle, Duke's student newspaper, a protest broke out on campus regarding South African apartheid. During the debate, Abel's great-grandniece, Susan Cook, wrote a letter to the editor. She dropped a truth bomb that rocked the institution. The architect of the very buildings you are standing in, she wrote, was a black man named Julian Abel. The university was forced to confront a ghost. Julian Abel proved that brilliance cannot be segregated, even if the history books try. He built the environments where the American elite learned to lead, that all while they refused to acknowledge his humanity. As the historian David Brownlee stated, Abel was the ghostwriter of the American Renaissance. So I have to ask, should every university built by black hands be required to lead with that truth in their admissions brochures? Or is putting a portrait in a hallway 80 years too late just a performance? I want to hear from you. Comment Abel to honor the man who built the world but wasn't allowed to live in it, and share this video. The algorithm loves a clean, sanitized history. It hates the unfiltered truth of who really built this country. Hit that follow button and join us at Black History Unfiltered. We don't just tell the past, we give the architects of our culture their names back. What if I told you the most jaw-dropping dance sequence in Hollywood history was performed in a single take, and the two men who did it were filmed separately from White Stars so that Southern theaters could cut them out of the movie entirely? Their names are Fayard and Harold Nicholas. And if you don't know them, that's exactly the problem. Fayard Nicholas was born in Alabama in 1914. Harold was born in North Carolina in 1921. Their parents were musicians who led the orchestra at a black theater in Philadelphia. By the time Fayard was 10 years old, he had memorized the movements of every great African-American dancer alive. Nobody taught them their style. They invented it. They fused tap dancing, jazz, and classical ballet into something the world had never seen. They called it classical tap. Gravity-defying leaps, airborne splits onto staircases, rising from full splits without using their hands, flipping over rows of chorus girls, dancing on piano keys and leaping over performing musicians mid-routine. In 1932, Fayard was 18 and Harold was just 11 years old when they became the featured act at Harlem's Cotton Club, performing alongside Duke Ellington, Cab Calloway, and Ethel Waters. 11 years old, Hollywood came calling. Movie mogul Samuel Goldwyn saw them at the Cotton Club and signed them immediately. They appeared in more than 30 Hollywood musicals throughout the 1930s and 1940s. But here is where history gets brutal. According to historical records, racial restrictions at that time prohibited them from having speaking parts or scenes with white co-stars. Studios filmed their performances as standalone sequences, specifically so that Southern theaters, which refused to show black performers on screen alongside white stars, could cut their scenes entirely without disrupting the film. The Nicholas brothers would perform, the audience would go wild, then the projector would move on to the white stars, as if Fayard and Harold had never existed. Then came 1943, the film Stormy Weather, a routine called Jumpin' Jive with Cab Calloway and his orchestra. According to Wikipedia and confirmed by the Nicholas brothers themselves, the choreographer Nick Castle gave them one instruction: just do it. Don't rehearse it, just do it. What followed was filmed in a single take. They danced across a giant staircase set. They leaped over musicians. They executed full splits at the bottom of each stair, landing perfectly, then rose without touching the floor with their hands. The synchronization was impossible. The athleticism was inhuman. Fred Astaire, widely considered the greatest Hollywood dancer of his era, told the brothers directly that Jumpin' Jive was the greatest movie musical number he had ever seen. Ballet legend Mikhail Baryshnikov, one of the greatest classical dancers in world history, called them the most amazing dancers he had ever seen in his life. And Gregory Hines, himself one of the greatest tap dancers of the 20th century, declared that if a movie were ever made about the Nicholas brothers, their dance numbers would have to be computer generated, because no human being alive today can replicate what they did. No human being alive today. They received the Kennedy Center Honors in 1991 for Lifetime Achievement. They received stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1994. Fayard won a Tony Award in 1989, but in the 1930s and 1940s, when they were at the peak of their power, performing things no one had ever done on screen, they were being cut from films in America's South. Fayard Nicholas died in 2006 at age 91. Harold Nicholas died in 2000 at age 79. They spent their entire careers proving that black excellence could not be contained, even when the system was specifically designed to erase it. Comment, Nicholas Brothers, if you had never heard these names before today. Share this with someone who thinks they know Hollywood history, because you cannot know Hollywood history without knowing Fayard and Harold Nicholas. Follow Black History Unfiltered. We don't let legends become footnotes.
The family.
They jumped 12 feet through the air, landed in splits on the last note, and you've never heard of them. The Berry Brothers, Ananias, James, and Warren, three black brothers from New Orleans who became the most acrobatic tap dancers America had ever seen. 1919, Ananias was 6 years old. James was 4. They were already performing in Chicago. Their father was extremely religious and didn't approve of dancing. But James entered a local dance contest anyway. He won. The theater offered him a $75 weekly contract. That's over $1,300 in today's money. His father rejected it, but the brothers kept dancing anyway. By 1924, the family moved to Hollywood. James, still a kid, performed at parties for silent film stars like Mary Pickford and Clara Bow. He landed a job in the Our Gang comedies. Both brothers appeared in silent films as child actors. 1929, Ananias was 17. James was 15.
Family, this is just a little black history showing that we always been excellent, always been good in our craft, and about just talking about us as a black family, like, live, and